Inverters, the heart of your system. The main function of your inverter is to convert direct current electricity from your solar panels and or battery storage sources to AC, to alternating current for your home's appliances to function with. Secondly, it additionally allows electricity from the utility grid to supply electricity to your load if your panels or batteries is not supplying enough energy. There are a few factors that you should consider when sizing and selecting your inverter, and they are the following. The max AC rated power. This is the maximum power your inverter can supply to your electrical load. To estimate this, find the sum of all the power ratings of the appliances in your load, in your home, and also find your base load of all the appliances that will be on for 24 hours, like your fridges, Wi-Fi and security fences. Then find your peak load scenario where all of your appliances are on. For example, at dinner time when your microwave, kettle, toaster is all on at the same time. I recommend first installing a power monitoring device such as an electrical meter like this or an AC clamp so you can accurately measure and understand the load profile that you are dealing with. Note that the appliances that use heating elements such as ovens, geysers, toasters, hairdryers have high wattages. If all of them are on at the same time, it most likely will trip the inverter. This is why we split them at the distribution board into essential load and non-essential load, so that the utility grid can supply power to the heavy consumers like geysers, rather than the inverter. There is a maximum current that can be supplied, and since voltage is always 230 volts, you can deduce this by dividing the total rated power by the amperage. Surge power. Some inverters allow electrical surge for 2 times the rated power for a certain amount of seconds or minutes, and then they will restart after that period. Note that some motors also have high startup voltages and then reduces as they start to run. It's just something to consider. Minimum DC voltage or power. This is the minimum voltage your solar array will need to provide in order for the inverter to make use of it. And it's usually 150 volts on 5 kilowatt inverters. So you will need a minimum of 4 panels just to make sure that voltage is at 150. Maximum PV input power. This is the maximum DC power that your panel array can supply to the inverter. Each panel's voltage usually ranges from 48 volts to 52 volts, depending on the ambient temperature. So if you have 6 panels in series, otherwise known as a string, the voltage will be 6 times 48, so around about 300 volts. So make sure that this is within range of your inverter. The maximum PV current. Each panel's current varies between 9 and 13 amps. And when you combine the panels in parallel, the amperage is added, but remains the same when it's in series. You can make use of the MC4 combiners to achieve the combining of parallel strings. The number of MPPTs. A maximum power point tracker is a unique piece of electronic equipment that tracks the most optimum voltage from your panel's array so that it can feed your batteries and load with the most amount of amps. Inverters can have more than 1 MPPT, so if you have 2 strings facing in different directions, east and west for example, 2 MPPTs work on getting the best voltage from both strings. MPPTs will also have a particular voltage range in which the inverters operate with. And this is the range in which the maximum power can be tracked and optimized for. So always make sure that your panel's strings are within this range. The inverter also has a maximum discharge and charging current to the battery. Warranty. Customer support on the inverter is crucial. If something happens to it, so make sure that the manufacturer has a good warranty plan on it. They usually range around 5 years, but they are known to have lifespans of 10 to 15 years. Monitoring. Inverters these days will come with nifty monitoring software, which you can then connect to your Wi-Fi and then monitor remotely wherever you are in the world. You can see how much solar energy you produce, how much grid power you consume, and the current health of your batteries. Switch time. In the case of grid power being lost and there is no sunlight, the inverter will switch to battery. This time period is usually less than 0.2 seconds and is the blink of an eye. Efficiency. This is usually related to the electrical input versus the electrical output of the inverter. This usually ranges around 97%. So there are protection features on the inverter, such as reverse polarity protection. If you accidentally wire the positive and negative terminals of the panels the wrong way, the inverter will detect this. Then there is overcurrent voltage protection. If the utility grid's voltage somehow surges, your inverter will make sure that it stays protected. Anti-island protection. If your inverter is able to feed electricity into the grid, it needs to detect whether the grid goes offline. Electricians might be working on a substation, and if there's power supplied into the grid by your system, someone could be hurt. So islanding is when the inverter only supplies to the load island in this event. Now, other safety features also include the AC short circuit protection, leakage current protection, ground fault monitoring, ingress protect degree, and an optional DC isolation switch. In order to protect your system even further, one should make use of external circuit breakers to protect the AC input and output of the inverter, as well as the PV input. We'll look at this later in the course. Inverter placement. Now, you want to ideally place the inverter in a well-ventilated location near your main distribution board to minimize costs on cabling. Make sure it's not exposed to any rain or moisture, and allow 20 centimeters of spacing around the inverter for ventilation. Alrighty then, now you know what's important to look for when deciding on an inverter. Let's move on to the DC side and understand how panels fit into the mix.